Welcome to this week's episode. Today we are talking about sales, aviation sales in particular.
Exactly.
Which is a hopefully natural result of aviation marketing.
One can hope.
Exactly. So we've got three scenarios, both of which were won or lost by the same factor, right?
That would be a truism.
Or at least the same set of factors.
Yes.
All right. So I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you folks out there in the aviation world sell more of your products and services.
Exactly. So even though we are a marketing company, our mission is sales, which is not always the case. We're not in it to win awards or Webbies or Clios or anything else. Our award really is when our clients make more sales.
That's exactly correct.
All right. Cool. Okay, so we have three scenarios to talk about, two of which are aviation, one of which is not aviation, but all three of them have the same factors, and all three of them included one thing in common, and that is this man right here as the customer. And one thing that I really enjoy about working with John is that he is a fabulous aviation customer. He's the perfect demographic, he is the perfect mindset, the perfect everything to test scenarios on. So if it floats with John, then it probably won't be too bad with the rest of the world, right?
Whatever you say.
Okay. All right. So in each of these scenarios, I want you to listen to three things. John's going to tell you the story, but the things that I want you to listen for in each of these stories is, number one, how was the phone answered on the first contact? Number two, how were alerts handled, or how do you think alerts may have been handled by the company that was handling this call? And number three, did they use a CRM system or some type of a follow-up system in the story that John's going to tell from the customer's perspective, right?
I don't know about a story.
Well,
an
okay.
Experience, anyway.
The anecdote. Okay. Anecdote number one.
Well, if you can't see the picture, we decided that it's time to build the president of this firm a proper studio.
That would be me.
That's exactly right. So the first thing we have to do is to hire somebody to frame out the studio. So, we went to the local Home Depot place and they said, here's an 800 number, call us for anything. So call them. And not only did they not know what I was talking about, their grasp of the English language is tenuous at best. And after about 5 minutes, I just said, no thank you, and hung up. Right.
And this is a fairly simple job to start with. This is taking our basement dungeon boxing gym. If you can't see the picture, this is it is an unfinished basement, basically, and you can see the water heater back there, and you can see, the window wells and all of the fabulous basement features. And what we want to do is take this and frame it and make it into a home office / studio kind of a deal.
Yeah, not that tough of a question, actually. So, on the way out the door, I saw what they call the pro desk, so just out of curiosity, stopped by and said, so, do you know anybody that you would consider for framing a basement? The guy said, just a moment. And he came back with a list of 3 folks. I said, great. Got 3 names, phone numbers, company names. So the following Monday, I called all 3. The first one said he'd be back with me that afternoon. The second one said nothing.
Did they answer the phone at all?
They didn't even answer the phone.
It went to a voicemail? Or?
Yes, and I left a message.
Okay.
The third one answered the phone and said he could be out there between 3 and 3:30. Is that okay? I said, absolutely. The one that said they'd get back to me that same afternoon didn't. The second one that said they would return my phone call didn't, to this day. And so the third one showed up out here, quite a nice, knowledgeable, been in the experience for 20 years. And as a professional, he did what I'd expect, which is to, we can do this. And he said, you might want to do this instead of that. And made great suggestions, which we took most of. And so he's coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
I hired him, paid him half the stuff, and he's going to come out here and do it. So that's just crazy. And I told him, in fact, he asked, he said, how did you hear of me?
Mm-hmm.
So I explained what I just said to you guys, and he just shook his head. He said, well, that's why I always answer the phone.
Right? Exactly. Or at least, return a call, right?
Right. And then he said he'd follow up with a text, and he did. And then 3:15 that afternoon, he was here.
Fantastic.
And the rest is going to be history.
Exactly. And we'll post, as we go forward with the studio, the evolution of the basement dungeon boxing gym to the ABCI studio as we go through this. So that will be fun to see. But this was really instructive, I think, in the sense, even though it wasn't aviation, it still had a lot of the same factors. But the next story is aviation, right?
Yes, it seems as though I'm helping a client try to find a place to rent / buy / build a hangar. And I have called people all over west of the Mississippi looking for hangar space. Some refuse to call me back. Some will says, well, what's the name of your company and how big are you and what's your tail number? I said, it's none of your concern. I want to know, before you know anything about me, I need to know about you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what facilities you have available. If they're not available, do you have land I can build on? If you don't have land I can build on, can I at least rent, lease? Refusals by 99% of all of those people that supposedly had hangar space. So I talked to one gentleman and said what I was after, and he said, that's exactly the kind of business we want here, and you told me enough of what I need to know. We have land available to be built on, and we've been negotiating, and I've called him back because of this thing that's going around, this virus, and I said, I know that steel prices are down, so suppose we can get some concession on steel prices. And he said, absolutely. The guy's just phenomenal.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So he qualified you around the confidentiality that you had, so he was able to figure out, that you were for real without asking you any questions you couldn't answer.
Yeah, I mean, tail number, well, which one? How many? I mean, don't talk to me like that. They want to go out and then try to qualify me, see if I can afford it.
Exactly.
And I'm not the customer.
Right, and there's a lot of folks in the aviation industry who are doing business in this way that have signed non-disclosure agreements and can't necessarily tell you everything that you want to know. So that is very, very common and, not necessarily a disqualifying factor. So there's other ways of
Absolutely
deciding whether or not you're wasting your time, Okay. Totally get that, totally sympathize, but dang, lost a sale.
Lost a huge sale. Looks like my client's going to spend about $35 million on a hangar and facilities.
And you still won't tell anybody who he is.
Nope.
Absolutely not. Otherwise you never get another client, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what NDAs are all about.
Right. Okay. The next scenario. And third and final scenario for the day.
So, I'm with the NBAA. And I have
At the convention last year.
At the convention last year. And I had been requested by a client to set up a charter. No charter company at NBAA would talk to me. I mean, I told them what I wanted. They said, no, we can't do that. Or, talk to so-and-so, it's not my part. It basically didn't say not my job, but said that. And this guy is going to be spending between $100,000 and $120,000 for a week's worth of flying, and they don't talk to me. So, they looked at me and think, I don't know what they think actually, but they decided I wouldn't have the money, and it was not my money.
It's not about you.
No, it isn't.
Right. That's
So I finally found a charter company that would be willing to do what I expect and put guarantees in place so that they could be on call for whatever this 1 week of flying these guys want to do. And it'll be all over the freaking place, so they're good.
So part of this is just, that a lot of people are stuck in a mode of doing business that's dictated by their policy or whatever, and they're not able to break that.
They don't, I don't know what it's hard to tell what's in people's minds.
Oh, yeah.
But I can tell you that a lot of business is being lost because of attitudes that I've seen.
And I think in a lot of cases it's just not getting escalated to the right people to make a decision about this. It's at a level where they're not able to make a decision and they don't want to escalate it for whatever reason to somebody who actually has some flexibility, right?
And at least.
Okay.
At least.
Cool.
It was quite disappointing in all three, and two of them are in aviation.
Right? It is so hard to be a customer these days. The nice thing about that is it's so easy to be a salesperson these days. You just have to get this one thing right. Just one thing, right? You have one job. And it is not an easy job necessarily, but it is a simple job.
Well, fun is answering the phone.
Yeah, exactly. So the deciding factor in all three of those cases was a timely and educated reply, right?
Exactly. And it's just like it was in real estate several years ago. You don't know what people can or can't afford by the way they dress.
Well, it's not like you were dressed like a slob at NBAA.
Well, no. But I had that experience when I was trying to buy a house in different places. They would look at me and finally I got to the point where I said, look, I'm going to pay cash on this thing. I don't care what you want to do. We're not going to go through closing unless I can pay cash. If you're interested, that's fine. Otherwise, I just turn around and walk out the door, and then all of a sudden they got really interested because they think I have money.
Right.
Well, when you buy something, you're going to pay cash. It's not necessarily your own.
Right. That's true. Okay. So 3 things that I recommend as a sales consultant and someone, that does sales training. Thing number 1 often is, how is your phone answered?
Is it answered?
Right. And we can do the most expensive marketing that, ever made, and still lose sales because either the phone isn't answered or it's answered by a robot, or worse, answered by a phone tree robot. Press 1 for Spanish, press 2 for English, and, making people go through that scenario is just not realistic in the aviation industry.
We had a customer who did that a long time ago where we marketed for them, and they said they weren't getting any leads. Come to find out they weren't making any calls on the leads they had. Exactly.
Or, nobody was answering their phone.
And that too.
Right. So, their phone tree was, number 1, unwelcoming. Number 2, kind of broken because, when it did go to voicemail, it was really hard to retrieve the voicemails. They replaced their phone system and things got better pretty rapidly. We used a service because, we can't be on the phone 24/7 and we are not a huge company. So we do use a service where a human being answers the phone during business hours in the United States. The rest of the time you do get a recording, but we do return those as soon as we can.
But those are only after business hours.
Right. Anytime you call us during business hours, you will get a human being. And I'd recommend that if you are in an industry where your average sale is over $1,000, you can afford to have somebody answer your phone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that sits in your office.
Nope.
There are creative ways of handling this. We use a company called Call Ruby. We don't take any commission or anything like that from them, but they've done a really good job for us for a couple of years now. So. So how your phone is answered is a huge deal. Make sure they're smart enough to escalate appropriately, right? And make sure that they are able to screen your calls in a way that isn't going to preclude somebody that is a potential customer.
And we give them a script, but they don't follow it strictly, which is good.
Yeah.
They sound like they work for us, actually.
Oh yeah, we give them an entire sheet of the most common things that people call about, and they're intelligent enough to really manage that well for us. So they do a really good job. Thing number 2 is alerts. So, when someone leaves a message, what happens to that? Does it sit in a machine until you get around to getting that? Are you alerted in some way? Call Ruby will send us a text to our phone or to my watch when someone wants to speak with us and they think it's important. So that's something that I can get to right away. There are systems for just about every phone system, whether it's manned by a human being or whether it's manned by a machine, where you can set up some kind of an alert system that handles that. So that's something we do a lot in office hours, is help people set those up and set up the rules for those so that they're screening their calls properly without getting inundated, but without letting something slip through the cracks.
True.
Cool. Number 3, a CRM, customer relationship management system, and follow-up process. So this doesn't have to be software, although there's great software on the market. This could be a whiteboard. This could be your
piece of paper.
Franklin planner. This could be a little 99-cent notebook from the drugstore. You do need to make sure that you do follow up with people, and ideally follow up quickly, because they may not get your return phone call. You may have to return a call more than once.
Yep.
And it is the burden of effort is on your side if you're the one making the sale. So, you don't just say, well, they never got back to me. It's not their job to get back to you. It's your job to get to them. So those 3 things, and they are the hardest things in the world to do. I totally get that. But if you can fix those 3 things, you're going to make a heck of a lot more sales, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Go sell more stuff.
The industry needs the business.
Absolutely. It's a paraphrase from Zig Ziglar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Have a great week. See you next time.